But that's it from me.
This is BBC News, the headlines at midnight. The leader of the British National Party appears on Question Time and is challenged about his views on race and the Holocaust.
Denying the Holocaust, Francis. Did you deny the Holocaust?
I
Yes,
did not
you
have
did.
a conviction for Holocaust denial.
But you did deny it. Why are you smiling? It's not a particularly amusing issue.
Nick Griffin faced tough questions from the audience.
The vast majority of this audience find what you stand for to be completely disgusting and
The show went ahead despite demonstrations outside BBC Television Centre. Some of them broke into Television Centre to try to stop Griffin taking part. 6 people were arrested. We should be getting reaction from the various people involved in the programme and also some who are watching it. Also tonight, halfway through the postal strike, the union announces 3 more days of strikes for next week. And British troops will be fighting in Afghanistan for another 5 years. The verdict of the new head of the army. Well, hello, very good evening. The leader of the British National Party has been appearing on Question Time tonight after a day of protests which saw demonstrators at one point break into BBC Television Centre to try to stop him. The programme has now been broadcast on BBC One. Mr Griffin was challenged repeatedly about his views on immigration and his former denial of the Holocaust. He said, "I'm not a Nazi," and he claimed that he was the most loathed man in Britain. Our political editor Nick Robinson reports.
Welcome to BBC Television Centre. These demonstrators determined to prove right tonight's visitor, who boasts that he's the most loathed man in Britain.
This is what they do to protect the Nazis! Shame on you, BBC! Shame on you! Shame on you!
The leader of the BNP, Nick Griffin.
This was the night he'd long dreamed of. The night Nick Griffin walked on stage to be treated like any other politician, to debate with opponents who used to refuse even to share a platform with him.
Welcome to Question Time.
The BBC's invitation for Griffin to go on Question Time followed his election as a Euro MP. It has raised such fury because he is no ordinary politician. He leads a whites-only party which inspires widespread fear and hatred.
I've been relentlessly attacked and demonised over the last few days, and the fact is that my father was in the RAF during the Second World War. I am not a Nazi. I never have been.
It was the BNP leader's past comments about the Nazis' mass killing of Jews which first caused him to struggle.
So Winston Churchill put everything on the line so that my ancestors wouldn't get, slaughtered in the concentration camps. But here sits a man who says that that's a myth, just like a flat world was a myth. How could you say that? How could you?
I cannot explain why I used to say those things. I can't tell you... any more than I can tell you why I've changed my mind. I can't tell you the extent to which I've changed my mind, because European law...
This is rubbish.
Because European law prevents...
This is rubbish.
There is no law here that stops you explaining yourself.
We had this in the 1930s against the Jews, the 1960s against the blacks, and now Nick Griffin's playing the same old game, hatred and fear peddling. Hatred and fear against a minority that actually has to defend itself. And I think that's outrageous. It's completely against the traditions of this country.
Those who hoped for or feared a punch-up were to be disappointed. As panel and audience lined up to remind Griffin of his past views, he claimed he and his party had changed.
Because I have brought the British National Party from being, frankly, an anti-Semitic and racist organisation into being the only political party which, in the clashes between Israel and Gaza, stood full square behind Israel's right to deal with Hamas terrorists.
His and his party's views on stopping immigration were, he insisted, supported by 80% of voters. Islam was, he said, incompatible with Britain. But
the indigenous British, the people who've been here...
The whites.
That's it. The skin colour's irrelevant, Jack. Skin colour's irrelevant.
What do you mean by white, Mr. Griffin? Indigenous?
I think
white.
One member of the audience suggested he should be consigned to the colourless landscape of the South Pole.
You're committed to stemming the flow and reversing the flow of immigration into the UK so that we revert back to a white Britain. Where do you want me to go? This is my country. I love this country. I'm part of this country.
I'm very happy for you to stay here. What we've said is that we believe that it's time to shut the door because this country is overcrowded, that criminals, bogus asylum seekers and people who aren't loyal to this country should be deported, and everyone else can stay.
There are many, many people out there who vote for the British National Party who are not racist. There is lots of statistical evidence to prove that. And therefore, what we have to do is we have to go out and say to those people, as mainstream political parties, we are prepared to listen, we are prepared to deal with this, and you do not have to turn to a racist, fascist party who have their own agenda.
At the end of a programme almost exclusively about Nick Griffin's views, the panel were asked whether this was an early Christmas present for the BNP. He certainly hopes so. The demonstrators outside and many others besides will be hoping that what was unwrapped were his real views. Nick Robinson, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, the protests outside BBC Television Centre are well and truly over. They ended a couple of hours or so ago. Scotland Yard says several officers have been injured in the demonstrations and they've made a handful of arrests. Home Affairs